In a dark alley, Jacob, a man hardened by life's trials, discovered an abandoned baby girl and made a choice that would change both their lives forever. From humble beginnings in a rundown apartment to building a life filled with love and laughter, Jacob raised the girl, Lily, as his own. But just when they thought their bond couldn't be stronger, a shocking revelation emerged. A wealthy family had been searching for their lost daughter for years, and now they were about to meet her. The city's dusk was settling in, casting long shadows in the narrow alleyways. The hustle and bustle of the day were dying down, replaced by the quieter, more insidious sounds of the night. Jacob, a man worn by time and hardship, trudged through one of these alleys, his mind occupied with thoughts of finding something, anything, that could help him get through another day. The dim light barely illuminated his path, but his steps were sure. He had walked this route many times before. As he passed a row of dilapidated buildings, a faint cry caught his attention. He stopped, his heart pounding in his chest. The sound was weak, almost drowned by the distant hum of the city. He turned towards the source, his eyes scanning the darkness. There, nestled against a garbage bin, was a small bundle. Jacob's breath hitched as he approached it cautiously. Kneeling down, he peeled back the thin, grimy blanket to reveal a tiny face, eyes wide and filled with fear. The child couldn't have been more than a few months old. "Hey there, little one," Jacob whispered, his voice gentle despite his rough exterior. "What are you doing out here all alone?" The baby whimpered, reaching out with tiny, trembling hands. Jacob's heart broke at the sight. He looked around, hoping to see someone, a mother, a father, anyone who might have accidentally left the child there. But the alley was empty. "All right, let's get you somewhere warm," he said, lifting the baby carefully. The child was light, almost too light, and Jacob's concern grew. He tucked the blanket around her as best as he could and held her close, feeling the fragility of her small body against his chest. Jacob lived in a rundown apartment at the edge of the neighborhood. It was a modest place, barely furnished, but it was a roof over his head. As he carried the baby inside, he felt a mixture of fear and determination. He had no idea how to take care of a child, but he couldn't leave her to fend for herself. He placed the baby on his worn-out couch and went to the kitchen to prepare some warm milk. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. Returning to the living room, he sat beside her, carefully feeding her the milk. The baby's cries subsided as she drank, her eyes never leaving Jacob's face. "What am I going to do with you?" Jacob murmured, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "I don't even know your name." The baby cooed softly, her small fingers curling around Jacob's thumb. In that moment, he felt an unexplainable bond forming. This child needed him, and in a strange way, he needed her too. As the days turned into weeks, Jacob did his best to care for the baby. He named her Lily, after the flowers his mother used to love. Lily was a quick learner, her bright eyes always full of curiosity. Despite his lack of resources, Jacob found ways to make ends meet. The neighbors, initially skeptical, began to offer small tokens of help, a bit of food here, a blanket there. One evening, Mrs. Thompson from next door knocked on Jacob's door. She was an elderly woman with a kind heart, and she had taken a special interest in Lily. "Good evening, Jacob," she greeted, peering into the apartment. "How's our little angel today?" "She's doing well, Mrs. Thompson," Jacob replied, stepping aside to let her in. "Just finished her dinner." Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly as she entered, carrying a small bag. "I brought some clothes. They used to belong to my granddaughter. I thought Lily might need them." Jacob's eyes softened with gratitude. "Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. You've been such a blessing to us." She waved off his thanks. "It's nothing, Jacob. You're doing a wonderful thing, taking care of this child. Not many would do the same." After she left, Jacob sat on the couch, holding Lily in his lap. He looked around his modest apartment, realizing that it was slowly transforming into a home. The cracks in the walls and the worn-out furniture didn't matter as much anymore. What mattered was the little girl who had brought light into his life. "Lily," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "I don't know where you came from or why you were left alone, but I promise you, I'll take care of you. I'll be the best father I can be." The months passed, and Lily grew into a lively toddler. Her laughter filled the apartment, and Jacob's days were brighter because of her. He taught her to read using old, tattered books he found at thrift stores, and she quickly developed a love for stories. They would sit together for hours, lost in the worlds of fairy tales and adventures. One chilly autumn afternoon, as they walked through the park, Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement. She had just learned to walk, and her steps were wobbly but determined. "Look, Daddy," she exclaimed, pointing at a flock of birds taking off into the sky. "Birds!" Jacob smiled, his heart swelling with pride and love. "Yes, Lily. Birds. Aren't they beautiful?" She nodded vigorously, her tiny hand gripping his. "Can we fly like them someday?" He chuckled softly. "Maybe not like them, but we can dream, can't we?" Their life was far from easy, but it was filled with moments like these, moments of simple joy and love. Jacob worked odd jobs, doing whatever he could to provide for Lily. And in return, she gave him a sense of purpose he had never known before. One night, after putting Lily to bed, Jacob sat by the window, looking out at the city. The lights flickered in the distance, and he thought about the twists of fate that had brought Lily into his life. He couldn't imagine his world without her now. She was his daughter in every way that mattered. As he watched the city lights, Jacob whispered a silent prayer of thanks. For the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of hope for the future. With Lily by his side, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would find their way. The years passed in a steady, rhythmic flow, each day a testament to the bond between Jacob and Lily. Despite their modest means, they managed to carve out a life that was rich in love and understanding. Their small apartment, though humble, was filled with warmth and laughter. Lily was growing up quickly. Her once tiny hands now grasped books with a voracious appetite for learning. Jacob marveled at her intelligence and curiosity. He did his best to nurture her mind, despite their lack of resources. One morning, as the sun's early light filtered through the thin curtains, Lily sat at the small kitchen table, scribbling in a worn notebook. Her brow furrowed in concentration, and Jacob watched her from the stove, where he was preparing breakfast. "What are you working on, sweetheart?" he asked, turning away from the sizzling pan to look at her. "I'm writing a story, Daddy," she replied without looking up, her pencil moving swiftly across the paper. "A story, huh? What's it about?" "It's about a little girl who finds a magical garden," Lily explained, her eyes lighting up with excitement. "She meets all kinds of talking animals and they go on adventures together." Jacob smiled, setting a plate of eggs and toast in front of her. "That sounds wonderful, Lily. I can't wait to read it." Lily beamed at him, her enthusiasm contagious. "I'll finish it soon. I promise." Their routine was simple but fulfilling. Jacob worked various jobs around the neighborhood, fixing things, running errands, and occasionally taking on more labor-intensive tasks. He always found a way to make ends meet, ensuring Lily had what she needed. Their neighbors continued to support them, their small acts of kindness weaving a safety net around the little family. One afternoon, as Jacob was repairing a fence for Mr. Lopez, his thoughts drifted to Lily's education. She was a bright child, and he wanted her to have every opportunity to succeed. The local school was underfunded and overcrowded, and Jacob worried it wouldn't be enough for her. Mr. Lopez, noticing Jacob's distracted expression, handed him a bottle of water. "You seem deep in thought, Jacob. Something on your mind?" Jacob took the bottle gratefully, wiping sweat from his brow. "It's Lily. She's so smart, Mr. Lopez. I want her to have the best education possible, but I'm not sure how to make that happen." Mr. Lopez nodded, his face thoughtful. "Have you considered talking to Mrs. Thompson? She used to be a teacher, you know. Maybe she can help." The idea sparked hope in Jacob. That evening, after dinner, he walked next door to Mrs. Thompson's apartment, Lily by his side. Mrs. Thompson welcomed them in, her eyes twinkling with curiosity. "Jacob, Lily, what a pleasant surprise. What brings you here?" Jacob hesitated, then spoke earnestly. "Mrs. Thompson, I've been thinking about Lily's education. She's a bright girl, and I want to make sure she gets the best start. I was hoping you might have some advice. Mrs. Thompson's face softened with understanding. She motioned for them to sit on the couch. Of course, Jacob. I'd be happy to help. Lily, would you like to read some of my old teaching books? Lily's eyes widened with excitement. Yes, please. From that day forward, Mrs. Thompson became an integral part of their lives. She tutored Lily in the evenings, sharing her vast knowledge and fostering a love for learning in the young girl. Under her guidance, Lily's skills flourished. She devoured books, excelled in her studies, and even began to teach herself new subjects. One rainy afternoon, as they sat around Mrs. Thompson's living room, the elderly woman handed Lily a beautifully bound book. This was my favorite when I was your age, she said with a smile. I think you'll enjoy it. Lily's eyes sparkled with gratitude. Thank you, Mrs. Thompson. I promise I'll take good care of it. Jacob watched the interaction, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. He knew he couldn't have given Lily the same opportunities on his own. The community's support had made all the difference. As Lily grew older, her bond with Jacob only deepened. She understood the sacrifices he made for her, and she was determined to make him proud. She helped around the apartment, learning to cook and clean, and always finding ways to show her appreciation. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Lily turned to Jacob with a serious expression. Daddy, I want to go to college someday. I want to study hard and become someone who can help others, like you've helped me. Jacob's eyes filled with tears of pride. You can do anything you set your mind to, Lily. I believe in you. Their life continued to be filled with small joys and triumphs. Jacob never stopped working hard, and Lily never stopped dreaming. They faced challenges together, finding strength in their love for each other. One crisp autumn morning, as they walked to the park, Lily's eyes were bright with excitement. She had just received the highest grade in her class on a difficult exam, and she couldn't wait to tell Jacob. Daddy, guess what? She exclaimed, her voice filled with pride. I got an A on my math test. Jacob beamed, his heart swelling with joy. I knew you could do it, Lily. You're amazing. She hugged him tightly, her small arms wrapping around his waist. Thank you, Daddy. For everything. As they sat on a park bench, watching the leaves fall around them, Jacob reflected on how far they had come. Despite the hardships, they had built a life filled with love, resilience, and hope. The future was uncertain, but Jacob knew one thing for sure: as long as they had each other, they could face anything. Lily's laughter filled the air, and Jacob joined in, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Their journey was far from over, but they were ready for whatever came next. Together, they had created a life that was rich in the things that truly mattered. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the neighborhood. Jacob and Lily were returning home from the park, their laughter still echoing in the streets. As they approached their apartment building, Jacob noticed a well-dressed woman standing near the entrance, looking out of place amidst the worn brick and faded paint. Daddy, who's that? Lily asked, her curiosity piqued. Jacob shook his head, his brow furrowing. I'm not sure, Lily. Let's go find out. As they drew closer, the woman turned to face them. Her eyes were sharp, and her posture exuded a quiet confidence. She wore a tailored suit, and her hair was perfectly styled. Jacob felt a pang of unease in his chest. Good evening, the woman greeted, her voice smooth and professional. Are you Jacob? Yes, I am, Jacob replied cautiously. And you are? My name is Evelyn Martin, she said, extending a hand. I'm here on behalf of a family who has been searching for their lost daughter. Jacob's heart skipped a beat. He felt Lily's grip tighten on his hand, and he glanced down at her, her face a mix of confusion and apprehension. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. I think you must be mistaken, Jacob said slowly. Lily isn't lost. She's my daughter. Evelyn's expression softened slightly. I understand this must be difficult to hear. But please, allow me to explain. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folder, handing it to Jacob. Inside the folder were documents, photographs, and newspaper clippings. Jacob's hands trembled as he flipped through the pages. The photographs were of a baby, remarkably similar to Lily, and the articles detailed the story of a wealthy family's desperate search for their missing child. Lily was found abandoned in an alleyway about 12 years ago, Evelyn continued gently. The family has been looking for her ever since. They never gave up hope. Jacob felt his world tilting on its axis. He looked at Lily, who was staring at the documents with wide eyes. He knelt down beside her, holding her close. "Lily, honey," he said softly. "I need you to know that no matter what happens, you're my daughter. I love you more than anything." Lily's eyes filled with tears, and she hugged him tightly. "I love you too, Daddy." Evelyn watched the exchange with a respectful distance, her expression compassionate. "Mr. Jacob, I know this is overwhelming. The family is not looking to take Lily away from you. They just want to meet her, to know that she's safe and well." Jacob nodded slowly, his mind racing. "I understand. But we need some time to process this." "Of course," Evelyn agreed. "Take all the time you need. Here's my card. When you're ready, please contact me." Jacob took the card and slipped it into his pocket. As Evelyn walked away, he felt a heavy weight settle on his shoulders. He stood up, taking Lily's hand in his. "Let's go inside, sweetheart," he said quietly. "We need to talk about this." They walked into their apartment in silence, the familiar surroundings offering little comfort. Jacob sat on the couch, and Lily climbed up beside him, her small hand still clutching his. "Daddy, what does all of this mean?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. Jacob sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It means that you might have another family out there, one that's been looking for you for a long time. But it doesn't change how much I love you or the life we've built together." Lily looked down at the documents in her lap, her mind racing. "Do I have to go with them?" "No, Lily," Jacob said firmly. "You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. This is your life, and you get to decide what happens next." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes, and she leaned against Jacob, seeking comfort. He wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. "We'll figure this out together," Jacob promised. "No matter what, we're in this together." The days that followed were filled with uncertainty and deep conversations. Jacob and Lily talked late into the night, discussing their fears, hopes, and what the future might hold. Mrs. Thompson, ever the supportive neighbor, offered her wisdom and a listening ear. One evening, as they sat around Mrs. Thompson's kitchen table, the elderly woman spoke gently. "Lily, sometimes life throws us unexpected challenges. But remember, you are loved. No matter what happens, that love will guide you." Lily nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "I want to meet them, Daddy. I want to know who they are." Jacob took a deep breath, his heart aching with the realization that this moment had been inevitable. "Okay, Lily. We'll meet them. But remember, you're not alone. I'll be right there with you." Evelyn arranged for the meeting to take place at a neutral location, a cozy cafe on the outskirts of the city. Jacob and Lily arrived early, their nerves palpable. They sat at a corner table, waiting for the moment that would change their lives forever. A few minutes later, a couple entered the cafe, their eyes scanning the room. When they saw Lily, their expressions softened with a mixture of relief and overwhelming emotion. They approached slowly, almost as if they were afraid to believe it was real. "Hello," the woman said softly, her voice trembling. "You must be Lily." Lily nodded, her own emotions threatening to spill over. "Yes, I'm Lily." The woman's eyes filled with tears as she knelt down to Lily's level. "I'm Sarah, and this is my husband, David. We've been looking for you for so long." David stepped forward, his voice thick with emotion. "We're so grateful to finally meet you, Lily." Jacob watched the interaction, his heart heavy but filled with a strange sense of peace. He could see the love and relief in Sarah and David's eyes, and he knew that, despite the uncertainty, this was the right thing to do. The conversation was tentative at first, filled with awkward pauses and hesitant questions. But as the minutes passed, a sense of connection began to form. Sarah and David shared stories of their search for Lily, their lives filled with longing and hope. Lily listened intently, her eyes wide with curiosity. When it was time to leave, Sarah reached out to Jacob, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Jacob. Thank you for taking care of our daughter." Jacob nodded, his throat tight with emotion. "She's a remarkable girl. It's been an honor to raise her." As they walked home, Lily held Jacob's hand tightly. "Daddy, I'm glad we met them. But you're still my dad. That won't ever change." Jacob squeezed her hand, his heart swelling with love. "I know, sweetheart. And you're my daughter. Always." The future was uncertain, but Jacob and Lily knew one thing for sure: their bond was unbreakable. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their hearts united by a love that transcended circumstance. The days following their meeting with Sarah and David were filled with a mixture of reflection and anticipation. Jacob and Lily spent hours discussing their feelings and contemplating the future. The decision that lay ahead was monumental, and neither took it lightly. One evening, as the sun set and the sky turned a deep shade of orange, Jacob and Lily sat on their small balcony, the cool breeze ruffling their hair. Jacob had made Lily's favorite dinner, spaghetti with homemade sauce, and they ate in companionable silence for a while. Finally, Lily broke the silence, her voice soft but resolute. "Daddy, I've been thinking a lot about Sarah and David." Jacob nodded, setting down his fork. "What's on your mind, sweetheart?" Lily took a deep breath, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "I like them. They seem kind, and I can see how much they care about me. But I'm also scared. Scared of what it means to have two families." Jacob's heart ached for her. He reached out, taking her hand in his. "It's okay to feel scared, Lily. This is a big change. But remember, you don't have to choose one family over the other. You're allowed to have both." Lily looked up at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "But what if I don't fit in with them? What if they don't really want me?" Jacob's grip on her hand tightened. "They've been searching for you for years, Lily. They want to get to know you, to be a part of your life. But that doesn't mean you have to rush into anything. Take your time, get to know them. And remember, no matter what happens, I'm here for you." Lily nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Thanks, Daddy. I just don't want to lose what we have." "You won't," Jacob assured her. "What we have is special. It's built on love and trust. That's not something that can be taken away." As the days turned into weeks, Jacob and Lily continued to meet with Sarah and David. They took things slowly, allowing the bonds to form naturally. Sarah and David visited their apartment, bringing small gifts and sharing stories from their lives. Jacob watched with a mixture of pride and sadness as Lily began to open up to them, her natural curiosity and warmth shining through. One Saturday afternoon, they all went to a nearby park. The sun was bright, and the air was filled with the sounds of children playing and birds singing. Lily ran ahead, her laughter echoing in the air as she chased a butterfly. Jacob walked alongside Sarah and David, the three of them watching Lily with fond expressions. "She's such a happy child," Sarah said softly. "You've done an incredible job raising her, Jacob." Jacob smiled, his heart swelling with pride. "Thank you. She's brought so much joy into my life." David nodded, his eyes never leaving Lily. "We want to be a part of her life, Jacob. But we don't want to disrupt what you have. We're willing to take it at her pace, whatever she's comfortable with." Jacob appreciated their understanding. "I think that's the best way. She needs time to adjust, to understand that she's loved by all of us." As the afternoon wore on, they sat down for a picnic. Lily chatted animatedly with Sarah and David, her eyes bright with excitement. Jacob watched, feeling a sense of peace. This was a new chapter in their lives, one filled with possibilities. That evening, as they returned home, Lily was unusually quiet. Jacob sensed she was deep in thought and didn't press her. He knew she needed time to process everything. After dinner, as they sat on the couch, Lily looked up at Jacob, her expression serious. "Daddy, I've made a decision." Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. What is it, sweetheart? Lily took a deep breath, her eyes steady. I want to get to know Sarah and David better. I want to spend time with them and see what it's like to have them in my life. But I don't want to leave you. You're my dad, and this is my home. Jacob felt a wave of relief and pride wash over him. He pulled Lily into a tight hug, his voice thick with emotion. I'm so proud of you, Lily. You're incredibly brave. And whatever you decide, I'll support you. Lily hugged him back, her small frame trembling with emotion. Thank you, Daddy. I love you so much. I love you too, Lily. More than anything. In the weeks that followed, Lily began to spend more time with Sarah and David. They took her to museums, parks, and even a theater show. Jacob noticed how happy Lily was, her world expanding with new experiences and relationships. Yet, she always returned home, her bond with Jacob as strong as ever. One evening, as they sat together reading, Lily looked up from her book. Daddy, do you think it's possible to love more than one family? Jacob smiled, his heart full. Absolutely, Lily. Love isn't something that runs out. The more you give, the more you have. You're very lucky to have so many people who care about you. Lily nodded thoughtfully. I think I'm starting to understand that. Jacob leaned over and kissed the top of her head. You're growing up to be an amazing young woman, Lily. I'm so proud of you. As they continued to read, the future felt bright and filled with promise. Jacob knew there would be challenges ahead, but with Lily by his side, he felt ready to face them. Together, they had built a life filled with love, resilience, and hope. And now, with Sarah and David, their family was growing in ways Jacob had never imagined. The decision had been made, and the path forward was clear. They would walk it together, hand in hand, their hearts united by a bond that was unbreakable. The seasons changed, and with them, the dynamics of their blended family grew stronger. Lily navigated her way through the complexities of having two sets of parents with a grace that belied her age. Jacob watched her blossom with pride, knowing he had played a part in shaping the remarkable young woman she was becoming. One crisp winter morning, Jacob and Lily were in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Snow had fallen overnight, blanketing the city in a peaceful white. Lily's laughter filled the room as she recounted a story from her time with Sarah and David. And then David slipped on the ice and fell right on his back. It was so funny, Daddy. But he laughed too, so it was okay, Lily giggled, her eyes sparkling with joy. Jacob chuckled, flipping pancakes on the griddle. Sounds like you had a great time, sweetheart. We did, Lily said, her expression softening. I'm really happy, Daddy. I feel like I have the best of both worlds. Jacob's heart swelled with pride and contentment. I'm glad, Lily. You deserve all the happiness in the world. As they sat down to eat, a knock sounded at the door. Jacob wiped his hands on a towel and went to answer it. Sarah and David stood there, bundled up against the cold, their faces flushed with excitement. Good morning, Jacob, Sarah greeted, her breath visible in the chilly air. We have something important to discuss with you and Lily. Jacob's curiosity was piqued. Of course, come in. Have some breakfast with us. They settled around the kitchen table, the warmth of the pancakes and coffee creating a cozy atmosphere. Lily looked at Sarah and David expectantly. What's going on? She asked, her eyes wide with anticipation. Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of papers. We've been talking, and we want to propose something to you both. We've seen how happy you are, Lily, and how much you love both your homes. We want to make this arrangement more official. Jacob and Lily exchanged curious glances. What do you mean? Jacob asked. David smiled, his eyes kind. We want to set up a co-parenting agreement. This way, we can all work together to ensure Lily has everything she needs. It would mean regular visits, shared responsibilities, and, most importantly, a unified support system for Lily. Lily's eyes lit up with excitement. You mean, I get to keep living with both of you? Sarah nodded, her smile warm. Yes, sweetheart. We want you to have the stability and love from all of us. You don't have to choose one family over the other." Jacob felt a wave of relief and gratitude wash over him. He reached out and took Sarah's and David's hands. "Thank you. This means so much to us. I've always wanted what's best for Lily, and I believe this is the right path." They spent the rest of the morning discussing the details, ensuring everyone's needs and concerns were addressed. By the time they finished, a sense of peace and optimism had settled over them. In the following months, the co-parenting arrangement flourished. Lily thrived under the loving care of both families, her confidence and happiness growing with each passing day. She excelled in school, participated in extracurricular activities, and built strong friendships. The support network around her was unwavering, and she felt secure in the knowledge that she was deeply loved. One spring afternoon, as Jacob and Lily walked home from a school event, Lily looked up at her father with a thoughtful expression. "Daddy, do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you hadn't found me that night?" Jacob paused, considering her question. "I do wonder sometimes. But then I realized that finding you was the best thing that ever happened to me. You've changed my life in ways I never could have imagined." Lily smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. "You changed my life too, Daddy. You gave me a home, love, and a family. I'm so grateful for you." Jacob felt tears prick at the corners of his eyes. "I'm grateful for you too, Lily. You've brought so much joy and purpose into my life." As they continued walking, Lily's steps became more animated. "You know, I've been thinking about what I want to do when I grow up. I want to help people, just like you helped me. Maybe become a social worker or a teacher. Something that makes a difference." Jacob's heart swelled with pride. "You'd be wonderful at that, Lily. You have such a big heart and a kind soul. Whatever you choose to do, you'll make the world a better place." The years passed, and Lily continued to grow and thrive. She graduated from high school with honors, surrounded by the love and support of both her families. When it came time for college, she chose to study social work, determined to make a positive impact on the lives of others. Jacob watched her embark on this new chapter with a mixture of pride and bittersweet emotion. His little girl was growing up, ready to take on the world with the same courage and resilience that had defined her journey so far. One sunny afternoon, as they sat in the backyard of Jacob's apartment, now beautifully tended with flowers and a small vegetable garden, Lily turned to Jacob, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Daddy, thank you for everything. For finding me, for raising me, for loving me. I wouldn't be who I am today without you." Jacob's throat tightened with emotion. He took Lily's hand, his voice steady. "And thank you, Lily, for being my daughter. You've given my life meaning and joy. I'm so proud of you." As they sat there, the sun casting a warm glow over them, Jacob realized that the journey they had taken together was nothing short of miraculous. Through the challenges and uncertainties, they had built a life filled with love, resilience, and hope. And as Lily ventured into the world, ready to make her mark, Jacob knew that their bond was unbreakable, a testament to the power of love and family. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of their garden and the warmth of their connection, Jacob felt a profound sense of peace. The future was bright, and as long as they had each other, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. Together, they had created a world where love prevailed, and that, Jacob knew, was the greatest gift of all.